The Yak Magazine's going to hibernate. Don't shove your camera in the priest's face. What's going on?
Who's your favourite photographer?
My private parts can't pass over your head. It won't change your mind until you experience it.
Where does the Yak Magazine fit with AI? Today, we have a conversation with Sophie Digby. And it's a slightly different podcast than normal because Sophie would not claim to be a photographer, filmmaker, or creative in the visual art space. But she is passionate about art, and she's co-founder of one of the most successful publications in Southeast Asia, the Yak Magazine. Not only that, she's a good friend and is a wealth of knowledge and wisdom when it comes to life and cultural practices in Bali and Indonesia. So we do talk quite a lot about the practices of different cultures, but also about entrepreneurship, fashion, photography, design, and much, much more. She also brought me some mint chocolates, so that's enough for me. We love Sophie on this show, and we wish she was on these types of platforms a lot more, because her character was made for these modes of conversations. So now, without further ado, here is Sophie Digby. What brought you here in the first place? I mean, give us a bit of a concise history of your Bali beginnings and your life.
Yeah, well, I was working, I used to be a ski instructor.
Oh, okay.
Right, and my dad passed away and my stepmother kept everything. So I left to go and find my own fortune. And I had a girlfriend who was working for the Japan Times, which is an English language Japanese newspaper. And they had a side company called World Eye Reports. So I went to work for World Eye Reports. So then they just sent me on these amazing jaunts to create their supplements.
Okay.
So I did Montreal, I did Hungary, Sri Lanka, Indonesia twice, and Hong Kong.
For how long in each?
Indonesia, 3 months.
Okay.
3 months. And so I did Indonesia in 93 and Indonesia in 94. 3 months, and then 94 was 5 months because there was a lot of work and there was a big uptake into that supplement because it was coming up to their 50th anniversary. And I met my ex in Jakarta. He's actually from Sumatra, but born in Jakarta. And then after a while, I left. So he helped me with one of the projects, the last project. And then I didn't want to work with them anymore because it was like you move a lot in that industry. 3 months in a country, you get to know the culture, but you never make friends because you know it's so fast. You know, you're there, you're gone. You're there, you're gone again. So lived in Jakarta for 1 year. And I'm not a city girl, so had come to Bali a few times, and I said, right, let's just move to Bali. So we moved to Bali.
Learn the language straight away?
No, Indonesians loved practicing their English with you, so it's quite hard. But at that time, Indonesian television was subtitled, so I'd hear the program in English, and I'd read the subtitle.
Okay.
And so I was, I think it was Star Trek, actually, and Family Fortune, and things like that. So my vocabulary was great, but I could never string a sentence together until I had the lovely Made, my housekeeper, my first housekeeper, when she was from North Bali, did not speak English, and then bang, and I had to jump in there. Yeah,
we get a bit spoiled with the people we surround ourselves with in terms of the locals. They speak too much English almost. You kind of want to... It's too easy for us to not speak Bahasa, but we're learning. We're getting there slowly, much more slowly than we'd like, but we're learning bit by bit.
I suggest that, subtitles, which they don't have anymore because now they have a burgeoning TV industry, right? But if you can get past anything that's subtitled English into Indonesian or the other way around, that really kind of helps click a language. Well, I find that. Yeah.
I'm too quick to go to the excuse of, I'm 40 years old. It's difficult for me to learn languages, which is absolute bullshit. It's just laziness.
Do you speak other languages?
No, one thing I feel like I've probably told myself I've never been good at, not being one of my strengths, even at school with French and German. I just was not interested, wasn't good at it because probably I wasn't interested. So I've kind of carried that through my life, and everywhere we've been, even Hong Kong, where we lived for 10 years, everyone spoke English. A little bit less now with a bit more of the Chinese mainland influence, where English is not taught as much in schools anymore. but I think if we moved there now, we'd be more forced to learn Cantonese or Mandarin at least. But yeah, we're just being spoiled. Never really felt we've needed to, which is also not an excuse. Here, when we came, we're like, whether we need to or not, just because we want to integrate, also show as much respect as we can, and just easier, and it's more fun for us to speak the local language.
I mean, once you get their sense of humor and you can give them a sense of humor, it's great fun. Plus, it's cheaper.
yeah.
You can haggle at the market.
True.
They'll actually, and they love it.
True.
They love the haggling. They love that. And you got to understand that Balinese actually are already born bilingual. Because they'll speak the 3 levels of caste language. High Balinese, mid Balinese, and low Balinese.
Yep.
They'll speak at least 2 of them. So basically, they're kind of practically born bilingual, and then they can just add English. And many more languages that they speak. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. And the beach sellers, they speak like 5 languages. It's incredible.
Do they?
Oh, a bit of Japanese. They'll throw in some Swedish, a few words, incredible.
Wonderful. The people here are something different. They're just so special. And, we've all in this room had the privilege of traveling, as a lot. And they are by far the best people, one of the nicest cultures we've ever had the privilege of being involved with. So we kind of feel like we do the place disservice if we don't make an effort to, as well as integrate in other ways, but certainly the language. But yeah, we still haven't got there yet. Just find it difficult.
But no, I think, for example, you're a photographer. So the fact that you capture the essence, because I've seen some amazing photography that you've been doing, not just in Bali, also in Java. I think that is a beauty, and that's kind of certainly a gift to give that visual respect, reverence, and uniqueness of the culture.
The idea, definitely. Yeah. And when I figured out that's the style, that's the type of photography I want to do, that's the type of photography I love the most. It's not about the images. It's about actually the experiences, the process, and the people that we meet. And there are a few places that we are going back to just because of the people. Like, we can get photos anywhere. But for my type of photography I want to do, and it's kind of I want to kind of create a love letter to Indonesia, because it's certainly, I've fallen in love with this country for probably the last 10 years, as many times I've visited. Now we live here in Bali and are able to just go to different places. There's so much we haven't explored as well. So there's kind of that exploration we want to do, revisit and just learn more, because one visit, a week somewhere, you can't learn anything.
It's huge.
And it's so big. And all of the subcultures and all of the nuanced cultural practices.
Cuisines is fantastic.
The food, the history, the practices, just so many different geographical landscapes, and it's wonderful. So we're really excited to kind of base ourselves here and explore. But yeah, the photography is definitely a kind of a giving back.
Do meet Dr. Lawrence Blair, who I'm sure you've heard of. Have you heard of Dr. Lawrence Blair?
I don't think so.
So Dr. Lawrence, Lorne Blair and Lawrence Blair, they were the boys that made the first documentary called Ring of Fire.
Oh yeah, I've watched that.
Right. So he lives in Bali, obviously.
Does he still live here?
He still lives here, and right now I think he's editing a series of his for Nat Geo, I hope. And he's one of the most interesting people, because he lives and loves, Indonesia and understands and has such a great education that he knows so much about everything.
Oh, great. I'd love to
of
meet
Indonesian history, of just everything.
I didn't know he was here.
Yes, no, he's here. So if he ever does a talk, do join. Or if you ever hear that he's running a cruise, because he sometimes is one of the resident master on one of these beautiful cruises that go around like the Spice Islands, and he'll do a whole story about every fort you go to, that piece of history, that book you should read, and then he'll also go snorkeling with you, diving with you, and of course he's an amazing diver and knows everything about underwater life. I mean, he's a David Bellamy, and I don't know, he's just one of the most incredible people. And to listen to him and to hear him and know that he's been around in the 70s.
Do you think he'd come on the show?
If he's not busy, possibly. I think you should definitely. I'll give you his number.
That'd be very.
I mean, if it would tie up with him being able to talk about what he's doing with his series, would be amazing.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, diving is another thing that we love to do, and Indonesia is obviously a mecca for scuba diving. So
I'm not a diver. It's too far from the minibar.
Did you?
It's too far.
Anyway, we've digressed already. Tell us more about yourself. I mean, people watching this may or may not know you, but I'm sure a lot of people certainly here know of the Yak Magazine. So tell us kind of a little bit about how that started. I mean, what is it? Over 10 years old now?
20.
Over 20 years old.
20 this year.
Wow, congratulations. That's
so
amazing.
when I first came to Bali back in 96, I came and I started a small guidebook magazine called Bali Plus. Because basically in 96, there was no internet, there was no hand phones, there was no information. So there were a couple of magazines already there. There was Bali Echo, I think Hello Bali, and a couple of other magazines. But there was nothing I could put in my handbag and refer to. And no maps with grids and things. So I got kind of annoyed that I'd missed an Eddie Grant concert because, you just didn't find out about it. And then one of the ceremonies, I think it was the Dewa Sraya ceremony, which only happens once every 25 years. So I missed that. And I thought, well, we just need this calendar of events and we need quick information. So we just started a small guidebook called Bali Plus, so literally 10 by 21 back pocket handbag style. So I did that with my ex-partner, Hendra. And we did that for 96, and I started the Yak in 2003. So that's when I left Bali Plus in 2003 and started the Yak. And the Yak, yes, it's called the Yak after the last three letters of Seminyak. So it doesn't mean yak as in yakety yak. It is literally the last three letters of Seminyak. And that's why everyone wants us to do one called the Goo. It's like, okay. And it was really interesting, I suppose, because when talking about 2003, we just had the first bomb. Yep. I got calls from South China Morning Post and Das Bild, I think, saying, what are you doing starting a luxury lifestyle magazine after, an event like that? And it never even occurred to me that due to that event, we wouldn't, or we would either. It was just, something we'd already moved on from that, I think. And Bali and everyone else's eyes was still attached to that attention magnet, But we'd already moved on quite fast.
They were asking you because it was maybe
insensitive,
or just not a good business decision?
Yeah, not a good business decision. Nothing to do with it. Nobody was sensitive back in 2003. Everyone was still fast asleep.
No one knew the meaning of the word offense.
Or woke.
Yeah.
So we started it, and it was a beautiful, it was a 48-page magazine, and clipped, and it, it went perfect.
60 odd?
48 pages.
Issues? How many issues now?
We're on 60, this is 68. So it was it's been a beautiful journey because as we offered everyone a platform and a window, and we were very picky about who could come in, and sometimes we'd send their artwork back and say it's not good enough, or or photography, go and get better photography. So we really pushed people that wanted to be in the magazine to step up to the plate, and get into this big format, which is 26 by 28. I mean, so you can't take a small photo and make it big, it pixelates, etc. And most of the businesses, because, computers, we're talking about 2003, right? So I got my first Mac, the big orange block thing in 96, secondhand in Bali. And so, people weren't used to that size, that format, right? I mean, people are still talking about Corel Draw and PageMaker and, no InDesign there yet.
Yeah, no, not at all.
So it was really, really, we all educated each other. We definitely educated each other, and everyone, thankfully, and I'm really grateful, stepped up to the plate, and we started making together. It's a very together project, in that we provided the window and the platform, and everyone else got to put their fabulous things in it, and it was, we all grew. We all grew in luxury and lifestyle. So yeah, and bit by bit, the Yak became this foundation stone of luxury lifestyle in Bali. And a lot of people, because of the Yak, moved here. They saw it, they either opened restaurants or shops or businesses, or, it kind of enforced. I'm not saying they moved here because of that.
So you're the ones to blame for all the...
No, that's Deus. That's Canggu, darling. Sorry, no, I'm joking. Sorry, Dustin. Didn't mean that. I know. Joking.
Not joking.
No, well, I think progress. I mean, it's when you put progress in that. I mean, I think definitely the Yak had a hand in in encouraging the move, the luxury lifestyle, which came with villas, which came with shops, which came with more tourists. It came with a high end tourist. It was definitely like slightly more what we call economic freedom. Tourists with more economic freedom, less backpack, less surfer. And obviously an answer to this influx of luxury lifestyle was built. Which means hotels and villas and other things. And and we very much steered away from the Balinese culture, because Bali Plus, which is still going at that time, was very much about Balinese culture. So not to step on anyone's toes, because Hello Bali was also Balinese culture. So we just wanted to steer away from that, from treading on other people's toes in the advertising world and in conversations, really. So
yep. How do you see the magazine industry at present moment and the future of something like the Yak Magazine? Do you think it's
right?
Dying?
It's a very interesting conversation, which I'm great, because I'm going to have it with you for the first time. I'm going to put the Yak Magazine's going to hibernate.
Okay.
Right. I've got a lot of stuff to do in the next probably like 8 months to a year that I have to do personally. And the Yak kind of after COVID, the team doesn't, because everyone went freelance. The team isn't that core team that could run it without me being here. So I'll hibernate it for a year. I've got to go and move my mum. My mum's relocating to Bali, which is a lot, right?
Yeah.
So to relocate, and we're not saying she's coming for a holiday. No, she's up sticks.
From the UK?
From the UK.
Okay, wow.
So, she's basically divesting herself of all life
and
furniture and stuff that she has there and
her.
moving here. So
Is
she's 85.
Well?
She's 85. No, she's fine. But she needs to come and live here. She's in pain there because it's wet, it's damp. You don't walk anywhere. It's raining. It's my stepfather passed away last August, so August 2022, and the plan's always been for her to live here, always. When he passed away, I mean, that's just always been the plan, that she would come to Bali. So finally, we can put that plan in motion. But it's a lot, when I helped her move out of a flat in London. And that was just to move all the stuff out of the flat into the house in Dorset, right? Which was just one moving thing. It took 2 weeks of heavy packing and wrapping and running things around to the hospice or to the shelter homes or whatever, So, the Homeless Foundation. So it's, we're talking about 85 years of gathering stuff.
Yeah.
In a largish house. So it's got loads of room to kind of just, accumulate things.
What will you do with it after its hibernation? Do you think you'll bring it back in the same format, or is it something you'll move to purely online? Or
it would really still work here twice a year. Really, really. I mean, already we had a list of people that wanted to come in. I was going to move deadlines to January to June and then July to December. Those two peak times are good, I think. I think very much for the Yak, it's very much still a very good magazine to do. We would, because we're quite niche, and that, I think, that's been our saving grace in the end. We're very niche. We're very, very flexible to waves of what we wish to create or what's going on in Bali, and we want to reflect. So, for example, the last issue was the Creative Collective, and that's very much about the creative people here. So. And thankfully, this time round, it was fantastic because we got to cover, a lot of the beautiful Indonesian people that moved here a lot. A lot of them moved here in COVID. So, we have a closer contact with them. And, for example, the next one probably would have been about property. And so we're able to ride that wave or reflect that wave. Then we could definitely say, what's going on? Really what is happening with this, And I think what we were just talking, before we started recording. People just have come in blinkered. They only want what they want, which is the 4-bedroom villa or the house. They haven't come in for the culture. They've just come in roughshod, and they just want it because it's sunny, it's beach, it's a nice lifestyle. You can have a nanny, you can have a housekeeper. You have which you could never afford back in your country. And I think that's the difference of the people that, when I did Bali Plus was very much about this ceremony, that ceremony. We had a list of do's and don'ts in the back, which was don't shove your camera in the priest's face, don't jump on a temple, do not enter if you're menstruating, don't walk in a bikini, and all these things. And of course, once Bali Plus didn't print that anymore, then we get all these people running roughshod over cultural sensitivities and religious rules, actually, and they're just not interested. And if they're interested, they actually want to kick against them. They want to disrespect them, which I always find extraordinary.
That is a culture of our society. It's like it's just this desire to rebel just for the sake of rebelling. I don't get it, and I don't want to pinpoint certain generations or certain parts of the world, but the kind of the spokesman for that movement was certainly someone like Donald Trump, where it's like you call him a liar and he'll say, no, I'm not. He'll literally just say, no, I don't care what you say. This is what I think. And I think we're seeing that. I'm not saying he's the problem, but we started to see that.
All politicians lie, by the way.
Of course. But
they're politicians.
There's just a kind of fuck you attitude to anyone, any rules or any traditions or any cultural
respect. I mean, just the respect of the LDC. And Asia doesn't have that. Asia is still yet. I mean, the Indonesian doesn't disrespect another Indonesian. They wouldn't go to England and push a policeman.
No,
right?
not at all. I think Southeast Asia doesn't have that.
They wouldn't climb up Big Ben and take a pee, or something ridiculous like that, or go into Salisbury Cathedral and wash their face in the font or whatever it is. They just wouldn't. And I think it's a Western. I think it's this me first attitude, number one, and then I think there's a sense of entitlement. Why? Because you can get free money. Get free money. You don't have to work that hard. You just put your hand up. The government will give you something. So then, therefore, you lack respect. You lose that
value.
Yeah. And I met Li Ka-shing, actually. I met Li Ka-shing. Yeah, in Japan when I was working for the Japan Times in Hong Kong. And I said, what is China doing right that the West is doing wrong? And he said, you're giving people money for free, and that's going to come back and bite you.
Yeah.
Because China doesn't give you anything for free. I mean, they'd rather not buildings now, which they're doing now, than give free money. They'd rather waste their own money kind of thing rather than give away free money. What is the West doing wrong that China's doing right? And he said, not giving away free money. I think that's because it was about, there was always slightly more those questions with those people. You really want to know their thought pattern.
Yeah.
Because obviously from being up there, for working in a hotbed and living in a hotbed, which is every 6 hours, right? 4 times in hotbeds in Hong Kong. So I think you can sleep for 6 hours and then you get out and somebody else gets in it. That's why they're called hotbeds. Mm-hmm. So he had 3 jobs just so that, because otherwise he had nowhere to go. So he just worked 6 hours, 6 hours, or 6 hours. And from selling silk flowers at the peninsula, right?
Yep.
And then obviously he must have done something a little bit more creative after that to get that rich, right? He must have been way more creative.
I need to stop talking about China.
Right. And,
but I think...
And anyway, so yes, I agree with you. Southeast Asia. I love Indonesians. Have a lot of respect for their elders. They still live with their grandparents.
That's the difference.
They live with their grandparents. They're very, very caring. They bend over backwards for them because they understand that their parents bent over backwards for them as kids. And I think Western, it's like everyone's trying to push granny into the old people's home or the hospice or, and plus, they get treated badly in those places,
Yeah, unless you've got loads of money.
Yeah.
And even then.
You wouldn't know. So anyway, back to where we were about Bali and respect and all that. And I think, culturally, I think it's a shame that people have come to Bali with more of an intention to have a nice lifestyle, be able to get more for their money, more value, a bang for their buck.
But that's okay
and not learn about the culture.
Yes.
It almost should be, it should be a rule. And, the first 6 months, if you want to extend your visa after a year, here's a multiple choice question about Balinese culture.
But honestly, Sophie, I don't 100% agree with you, but I don't think it's isolated to somewhere like Bali. I think you see that. I travel a lot. I see it everywhere. I see it everywhere. People, especially Westerners, right? And this is a Western problem. And part of it is that entitlement. I don't know where that's come from. I think it's a little bit short-sighted to put it on COVID, where people were getting handouts just willy-nilly. But I think it's endemic to that society, and I see it everywhere. Every country, Brits are probably the worst. Brits, Americans,
Brits
Aussies.
abroad. Oh my God.
Oh, they don't care about the culture. They just want sun, sea, sand, and something cheap.
Chicken and chips.
And chicken chips, which is okay if you can partner that with
No
some
paella,
element of.
no paella.
It comes down to education. It always comes down to education. People are not wanting to educate themselves on different ways of life and different cultures and the history of those different cultures, because they just don't want it. They don't care, which is ironic because we live in a world where you can educate yourself on anything at the click of a button if you really wanted to. So I put it down to that. And then because they're not educated, they don't care. And because they don't care, they're like dickheads. And Bali, unfortunately, even we've only been here nearly 18 months and we've seen the difference just in that short space of time. We probably contributed it to a little bit, try not to, but it's so sad. And I don't know what the solution is apart from education.
Stop giving people visas.
Yeah.
There you go.
But that's
just
money.
No more visas. No more visas. No more visas. I think, I think if you look at Bali, it ran away with itself. Its popularity ran away with itself. You go somewhere like Bhutan, Bhutan, it costs you $700 just to get in.
Oh, I'd love
and
to
then
go there.
$100 a day you have to prove yourself. And that's how they stopped it. I mean, that's how they don't have that.
Did they have that problem before?
No, they never had that problem. That's the whole thing. That's why I'm saying Bali, you can't change once it's run away with you. You can't put the horse back in the stable once it's galloped across the horizon. It's too difficult.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I've got a lot of hope for Tabanan actually, vis-a-vis Badung, which is where this regency we're in. Tabanan, having looked at what's happening here in Badung, are really going to try and keep a handle on it, and they're not going to allow that kind of runaway building and that kind of runaway design and that kind of runaway. Fingers crossed. I mean, I really do wish Erwin, the king of he's not the king of Tabanan. He's one of the regions inside Tabanan, one of the smaller regencies. He's very much pushing towards cultural respect and decent investment. And it used to be you could only build on 60% of your land. You had to leave 40% green, and you couldn't build taller than a palm tree and all that stuff. And of course, we're exacerbated. The problem of traffic is because they cannot build overpasses. And you might wonder why, because they don't build overpasses because my private parts can't pass over your head.
Oh, is that the reason?
So this is why they put the offering box. You see the offerings on the ground, those are for the naughty spirits.
Yep.
The darker side, right? And then the offering boxes here, up in the corner, are for the gods, like the deified ancestors that live in Gunung Agong. Now, usually they would never build 2 stories. That's why all Balinese houses are bungalows.
That was going to be my next question. So what if you have multiple stories?
Well, they never had them. I mean, Balinese architecture does not exist. Everything is on a ground level. Everything. The only time you have a little higher is if, for example, if we were in a ceremony, the Brahmins, which would be your Ida Ayus and your people like that, there were something, Batara, whatever, I'm sorry, Buanas and all that. So your Brahmins would sit higher than your Agongs, who would sit higher than your Wayans. So within, if you go into a Balinese compound, you'll see like a raised platform.
Yep.
That's where the posh, the energetically posh people sit, or the what's called nobility and religious nobility sit, and everyone else would sit lower down. And hugely important not to get that wrong.
Fascinating.
And you wouldn't talk to them, not speaking to them in their caste language. In fact, if you were from the lower caste, you wouldn't be speaking to the high caste. You would be speaking through a middleman, usually the priest, like a pedanda or something. Yeah. But anyway, going back to yes, private parts. So they find they find these private parts unclean. So, for example, your underwear would go in the bottom drawer.
Yep.
You wouldn't put your underwear in your top drawer like we do back in England.
Mm-hmm.
You know, socks and knickers in the top drawer. No. They put underwear on the bottom drawer and they would hang it on the bottom rung of the drying stand.
Yep.
And in the old days, people used to say, I've never seen it. When the rice harvest was about to happen, they didn't want anyone coming and stealing it. They'd hang knickers around the rice paddy field because nobody would go under them because that's, you know, it super funny, right? But that's one of the reasons. That's why they can't do overpasses. That's why we don't have over bridges, and that's why we don't have overpasses, so that my private parts go over your head. It's just unclean. It won't happen. Not allowed. And this is why everyone goes, but why don't they do that? And culturally, they're not moving on that. They are not giving that one up. Absolutely not. Java, you've got these overpasses, underpasses, ring roads, Jakarta, around here, there, you know. But here, absolutely not.
Different religion.
And this is the reason we have this traffic problem, because of this highly ingrained religious fact.
But actually, you know, if you're talking just aesthetically, I think I'd rather have the traffic problem than these eyesores of overpasses and concrete jungle. I mean, we don't want Bali to just become one big highway.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's absolutely fascinating.
So the private parts, that really is. It's always been an interesting kind of, you know, there's two great books you should read, and they're called Sakala Niskala. Sakala Niskala, and it means the seen and the unseen. And there's volume 1 and volume 2. And they cover everything from architecture through to magic, through to ceremonies, through to cooking, through to the names and the numbers and the Balinese casts and, you know, architecture and how everything is done almost with a sense of purpose that has something to do with deified ancestors. So when you're building a wall in your house, your new wall, you only build it on the build today a wall, the good day to build walls.
Yep.
So you know the calendar, right? So
yep.
the calendar, you'll have a good day to cut your hair.
Yep.
There'll be a good day to build a wall, get married, whatever. So, so with the Sakala, so for example, in architecture, you're about to build your wall, you will get the owner of the land will do 1 foot length and half a foot length away from where you're about to build the wall, dig a hole, and in there they'll put gold and silver and a piece of white cloth and probably a chicken's head and various things, all very symbolic to Bali, to the religion, which is the Hindu Dharma, which is slightly animistic in its original roots, and then obviously very influenced by Hinduism.
A lot of animism throughout Indonesia. I mean, it seems to be the core kind of religion.
It was definitely the basis of a lot before Islam came down. Because remember, you know, the Majapahit, I mean, it was Buddhist. I mean, look at Yogyakarta. I mean, that's one of the biggest Buddhist monuments in the world, right? And then it became Hindu, Majapahit, right? And then Islam came. So all the way from Malaysia coming down, scared the bejesus out of the Yogyakartans, and they moved to Bali. So actually, if you really know that the Balinese aren't Balinese.
Interesting.
They're from Jogja.
Okay.
Yeah, they came away at the time of the, you know, the Red Crescent coming through Indonesia. And the real Balinese, there's only 2 villages in Bali, Bali Aga they're called, which is Trunyan, which is the one on the lake with the skulls under the tree. No? So there's, Trunyan is, right, it's Bali. There's 2 villages, Trunyan and Tenganan. Tenganan is in East Bali.
We went to Tenganan,
with that amazing weaving that's kind of pre-dyed. Wall from the weft is pre-dyed before they start weaving it, which is only Japan, India and there. And then Trunyan. So Trunyan, it used to be an inaccessible village that you used to have to row to in a boat. And they have a sacred tree. And they literally, when the people in the village die, they just wrap it in a shroud, put it in one of those bamboo baskets like you see the pigs when they're going to market, put it there and shove that under the tree. And that's it. And it doesn't smell. And it just decomposes.
Okay.
And that's it. And it decomposes. And when it's decomposed, they just keep the skull, put it under the tree, and then imagine throw the rest of it into the lake.
Trunyan.
Trunyan, Trunyan.
Where is that?
It's in Kintamani.
Okay. We're going to check that out. We're going to
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, that's like really, you stand under that tree. It's very interesting energy. And then all these skulls that are now like moss covered or green, depending on the time of year. I think it's become very touristy now. So obviously you can get a motorboat, and it's not like it used to be, which was hard to get to. It used to be it used to be fabulous to travel. There was absolutely no traffic and no people. Tourists, right? So yeah. So Trunyan said, yes, going back to our conversation, Bali Aga. So those are the only true Balinese. So they are two small, tiny people. It's almost like the Red Indians being shoved into a reserve. And the Majapahit came, the kingdom. So that came, and this is where Bali started to do all its amazing stone carving, wood carving, because that all came from the Majapahit. So that's how we've got all this culture and nuance to, as we were saying, Hinduism, because before, obviously, the Bali Aga were very animistic. Yeah.
What is it about Bali that's kept you here for so long?
I think it's the energy. I mean, you just get off the plane, you start to go, oh, lovely. Everyone says, it's the Schumann resonance where it's resonating here way higher than everywhere else, because the Schumann resonance is the resonance of the earth, but you really feel it here. The people, I think the energy, I think the fact that they pray, twice a day really is noticeable in the vibration that Bali has.
Totally agree. I mean, I got off the plane. When did I get back? Saturday. The first message I sent Fee was, I already love being back, and just stepped off the plane. There's something about, definitely the energy is actually probably the perfect word, but everything that goes into that, the smells, the sounds, the people, just us greeted with smiles.
The smells and the sounds and that. Obviously not Circle K, lights of Circle Ks and endless pepitos. It's definitely not that.
That's just an unfortunate byproduct of today's society, correct. I guess.
Go to some good ceremonies. I mean, like the pure Chris ceremony. So obviously not the Ketchak dance Chris ceremony that they might do down south. Go to a real one. Go to some of these really interesting ceremonies. Like, the Sangyang trance, right? Or you get two girls standing there, they're totally entranced. Then they totally. Or, the other day with my mum, just before Nyepi, we rode, because, we stayed in, here in Brawa. I drove up to Sesib at turn right, and there you've got all these ogos, right? So you do that in a big kind of round O, and as you come out, there's a ceremony just by a banyan tree, just before you go to the river. And there was everyone was going into nutcase trances. It was just electrifying. Your hair stands on end and you suddenly right. You see, because it's more of, it's not somebody just going, pretending to be trancey. No,
I don't know. But I mean, that
you'd need to go and really, I think you feel it. I think.
Well, we had that experience in Java, didn't we? We visited Shaman, and I got some photos there, but he kind of, I guess, demonstrated, but he was doing a ceremony with a young man who went into this trance, started eating fire, and it was visually I guess moving, but it's still like, I'm thinking, well, how do I know that he's possessed, or how do I know that he's carrying a spirit? It's like, well, you don't. It's like,
But you don't either. You can't prove that he's not.
Correct.
Right? So basically, I mean, it's an open question. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, really, I think you have to really see it, feel it, believe it, to believe it. You suddenly go, no, until you suddenly go, no, absolutely. And there's other things that happen, things that will come up that you'll suddenly go, okay, that's interesting. That's interesting.
But they can be put down to coincidence most of the time. But that's what I'm saying, because your son coming to you, and your nanny saying things, and you feeling
without a doubt,
that's not coincidence.
And then when I moved back, because then I moved into another house for a few years, rented that house out, moved back, and I actually flew to Singapore the night we moved back in. And my lovely nanny, who's been with me for 11 years, she said, you missed them, they just left. I said, who just left? She said, the two lovely gentlemen that were here taking care of the house while we weren't in here. And they said to me, you're back, we can go now.
Oh, so we don't need to get anyone to look after our dogs when we're away?
No, not the dogs. On the spiritual level, the energy of the house, not the actual building. Okay. They're not going to stop it from falling over in an earthquake, darling. But no, that was really, really interesting. But, you have to be in Indonesia. And I think once you've been here as long as I have, which is 30 years now, 27 in Bali, I mean, I can say I know it exists, and it's whatever I say to you is not really going to change.
That's what I mean.
It won't change your mind until you
experience it
yourself.
Yeah.
And there will be little things, because it'll just add, and then suddenly there will be that extra drop of magic that just you go, oh, wow.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's like this, the gorgeous healer in Sese, right? The one that had that big bell.
No, yeah.
So I took a friend of mine there. She was about to get operated from a stone, not a kidney stone, but something, a gallstone. Gallstone. And I said, get out of the hospital. We're going to go to see the healer first before you go and do, that. So she came and we went to the healer, and yeah, he must have press. And she went, anyway, next day, no pain. But anyway, at the same time I went, he said, do you want to get healed? I said, no, I know I'm fine. And he just held my hand. He said, stop with the coconuts, okay? And I went, well, I'd been drinking 600 milliliters of coconut water every day for the last 3 weeks and loving it. And it's not good for me. I'm one of they've done a kinesiology, and I shouldn't be drinking the coconut water.
Oh,
it's not good.
Why?
For me.
What does the coconut water do?
I was just drinking it. Well, I don't know. For me, for some people, it's just maybe not my makeup,
so he
whatever.
Knew.
And he just said, stop with the coconut water.
Is that because you were carrying a bottle of coconut water?
No, absolutely not. I suddenly was going, maybe I smell a coconut. What is that? No. He just totally knew. Really super interesting.
Very interesting. I mean, I find it very interesting. And I'm open-minded enough now, I'm a bit older, to at least, I'm much more open-minded than I used to be. So I'm willing to receive. It's just I haven't seen anything that's gonna.
I think over time, over time. Yeah. I mean, I didn't believe in ghosts, although I grew up in a house with ghosts and actually saw a ghost and told my mother about it when I was like 3, and I can't remember seeing that ghost. But anyway, I did, because I ran downstairs. I said, "Oh, Mummy, who's that lady with the ring?" No, it was nobody was there. And then I thought, no, I don't see ghosts, because I can feel, but I can't see, right? Like Indonesians can. Until one time, I was renting a house at the end of Umalas near the river, and I suddenly was in bed, lying in the bed. I said, something's looking at me. I turned the lights on, and there, just sitting on the door lintel, was this kind of grey, smoky figure, almost like one of Lowry's paintings. The kind of matchstick man, but more soft, but almost like cloud-like, smog-like, just like not with the face, just the outline. How
many bottles of wine did you have the night before?
No, I hadn't. No, trust me. Listen, so this is funny. So everyone had already told me that house was haunted, and I go, bullshit. Anyway, so the next day I go and I talk to my lovely housekeeper, YN. She goes, there's an open drain coming straight up from the river. So I said, okay. So we put the pink rice and the yellow rice. Everything has a significance in all the things they do, and every piece of that chanang you see, or everything has a reason. Everything. To balance, right? So she puts that rice down there. I go to Ibudeo, I get some holy water, sprinkle the holy water. Next day, open my, and it just had reduced to that, literally much smaller size, much less intense darkness, like black. It wasn't scary. And then next day gone. And I said, who was that? He said, there's a guy that committed suicide. He fell in love with somebody who's a higher caste than him, and he drowned himself in the river. Dear. And my ex had seen this, and all the staff had seen this, and I just said, you're all bullshitting me. And then till then, you suddenly get, that was interesting.
Kind of makes sense.
And it wasn't scary. I mean, because it was just like, he was curious. I'm not saying it's because it wasn't. I mean, it was a figure that looked like, I don't know.
It wasn't a clear identifiable. No. Interesting. Well, I'm sure Fee would love to talk to you for hours about that. Let's go back to art. I mean, you talked about, I know you're very, very keen on art. You've obviously, run essentially a art-ish magazine, right? You feature a lot of artists in there. You obviously have much to do with photography, and you just go and enjoy art yourself. What is what is your thing with art? Is it something that you have always been fascinated in? Was it something that the magazine drove you to go and learn a little bit more about? How do you see the Bali art scene, in Indonesian art scene, different to I have lots of questions about this, but pick any of them. I love art because I'm really bad at it. Okay. I mean, it's just something that fascinates me, that people could be so talented at it, right? So that I find that for me, it's fascinating. It's like watching somebody that can do something you can't do. It's always like, wow, So, and creativity, I find, and then the kind of the vision into their
brain, I suppose, or whatever that is, that kind of ethereal, spiritual, whatever part of that comes through in art. Photography, because it takes me on a journey. Every photo just takes me, transports, like a good book can do. You can just go, boom, you're gone. And really good photography can do that. And art, Indonesian art, incredible. Indonesian art, Bali art, good. Now there's so many styles, you see. So there's Kamasan style. There's there's so many different styles that some I like and some I'm not that much of a fan of. Meritu are styles. I mean, they've got the modern, the new artists, the old artists. So some of those styles I absolutely adore. Putu Badil is a fabulous artist. Moko, I have a couple of his pieces. He was very based on Escher. So he was very influenced at one point by Escher, and I love Escher. Just the way his mind worked, that was crazy, right? So Escher, the illustrated painter. Gunawan, I mean, Jogja for art to me that's the nascente.
What, sorry?
Jogjakarta.
Okay.
Is the nascent art spot of Indonesia.
Is it?
Without a doubt.
Okay.
Without a doubt, that's where all they've got the art. That's
very trendy, new age city that's been.
No, Jogja's the older city. There's the Sultans there.
Oh, okay.
So it's the only once independent. It basically even outlasted kind of pre-interim and post-Dutch. They were always respected.
Okay.
The Sultan was always respected, and that's possibly the part that one city, although it was kind of touched by the Dutch, was kind of allowed to be Indonesian.
I thought it was. What I meant was like new age, as in they've had a lot of money pumped into that city to modernize it more.
No.
Thinking?
There's old money. So
okay.
The Sultan has loads of money. They've just built a new airport, but their art was very under Suharto, because it was a fascist regime. They weren't allowed to really have an art voice as far as a critique of the system of the government.
Okay.
Suharto obviously being was like Franco.
Yeah.
So art freedom of expression within the art world was very
suppressed.
Very suppressed. And so when he passed away, then you got some brilliant artists coming in. The indie guerrillas. Susanna from Biasa is one of the staunch supporters of Indonesian art.
What's your favorite medium? Paintings?
Photography.
Is it?
Oh, without a doubt.
Who's your favorite photographer?
God,
Present company excluded.
Right, I know, right? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I just for different things. I mean, really, really.
Who do you go to? I mean, I guess every issue is different depending on what type of images you need. But do you have like a core list that you repeat kind of photographers you can use and trust, or are you just going out there finding new photographers for whatever you want in that issue?
I think in the old days we used to, for fashion, I think in the old days Nigel was really mainly part of that part of it, right? And being the kind of art director and definitely in charge of that part of the content in fashion. We've used many photographers actually, but we have consistently used 2 or 3 over a few years, and then that kind of relationship kind of moved on to somebody else and onto somebody else and onto somebody else. This is Nadia. So Nadia is Indonesian. So I think this is the first Indonesian photographer.
Okay, cool.
That we've used.
Nadia.
Which Naria. He's this guy. So I saw him on Instagram because he does amazing photography for Edo Huta Barat.
What's that?
Who's a fashion designer.
Oh, okay.
Jogja. Yeah, that's Naria.
This is him? Or
that's him. That's him. So this issue, I really loved it because you call it Creative Collective, and I was really thrilled to be able to meet Nadia. Paper Moon, they're friends of mine from Jogjakarta. Mm-hmm. They're puppets. They make puppets, but huge puppets, like massive, 3 meter tall puppets. Paper Moon Theatre from Jogja, and then Nadia did his fashion shoot, and then we did the lovely. Kita Poleng, which is, the lovely Yasmin Okubo. I mean, that's stunning, right?
Yeah, it's beautiful. I like that it's outside.
So they're all Indonesians. They mainly didn't live in Bali.
Photography, I mean, it's obviously Interesting that you've kind of titled this Creative Collective, because Bali obviously has just seen an influx of creators, whatever you want to define that as, digital nomads. So when you said that, that's
creating havoc, maybe creating havoc is what they're doing. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of creative people, just as there's a lot of people that are inspired to create, but maybe not with their own original idea. To put it that way.
Give me an example.
But, I think a lot of people, come and open a fashion brand,
right?
And they'll open it and they'll, make 3 sizes, and it'll practically be, and they'll get the shop next door to the next shop, and the shop will look equally the same,
because they know that, or they feel that
it sells, it sells, and they're on Etsy, and they're on this, and they're on. So I mean, are you here for the money or the creativity? But I think everyone creates in their own way.
I don't think I actually have a T-shirt I bought recently that says, creativity is actually just a result of, multiple inspirations that you've had either in your conscious, subconscious, that you bring into one focus.
Yeah, and basically like a prism, right? Get the rainbow and it come out with the white light.
But it's like when you find I always say as well, there's a difference between originality and uniqueness, because to be truly original means that no one else has done it, which is so rare.
Because you would have got an inspiration from somebody anyway.
You can be unique, but you still, formula of different inspirations. But you can definitely see, I know what you mean. I meet a lot of people here and newly kind of found creators, certainly in the photography
industry. Which is fantastic if it works. I mean, if we look back to a lot of people that came here in the 70s, they came here and they had nothing else to do, and they started making jewelry and became some amazing jewelry people. We had Jean-Francois Fichot, right? He was just an incredible jeweler. Paul Robb. He didn't make clothes. He made rolling papers famous. I mean, that's what he did. He invented, he put the $100 bill or the $1 bill onto rolling papers, and the rainbow onto rolling papers back in the 70s.
Do you worry about being unique certainly with something like this that's so kind of prominent in its publication? Do you worry about that, or you just make what you make and you put it out there? Because the magazine market, the publishing market,
I never worry about that because I suppose because I've been here for 27 years and I speak Indonesian and I have all the opportunities to meet people or see things, and then I go and find those people. So I probably have an accoutrement of crazy ideas, and I will go for it. Things flash to me, like when I saw his stuff, Naria's photos with Edo Hutabarat, I was like, that's the guy I want. And so then nowadays it's so easy. You just go to Instagram, send them a message. In the old days, you'd have to try and, get a phone number. Do you know somebody who knows them? And it was much more complicated.
Letters.
Much more complicated, right? Fax machines. Right.
But I guess...
But back to what we're talking about, photography. Photography for me, because it just tells... For me, it tells more of a tale. Travel photography, absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Travel photography, things like people that take pictures of Cuba, India, and you can travel without the difficulty, right, and the cost, right? And then you get to travel to all those amazing places that you wouldn't be able to get to on your own, or like let's say photography in India, Indian photos, travel photography about India, incredible, right?
What fascinates you about travel photography? Is it the people, or is it the aesthetics, landscapes, street scenes?
Usually it would be architecture.
Architecture
for me would be historical architecture.
Well, in
so
India's
Dubai wouldn't be my go-to travel photography. Abu Dhabi, any of those. No, but I mean, it would be Argentina. For me, it would definitely be either street scenes, or an architecture. Budapest. I mean, look at that gem of a place. Have you been to Budapest?
Wonderful. Yeah.
I was there 3 months. I stayed in the Gellert Hotel. So that was just like
Europe.
Oh, I mean, you can walk everywhere. So.
Yeah, we're missing my first exhibition right now. Actually, it's today, tomorrow.
You have an exhibition
in Venice. Yeah, not my own. I'm just being featured in
a multi one.
In a multi one, yeah.
Right. Wow.
Which I just couldn't make it with my work schedule. But Yeah, I mean, Venice, Italy. Oh,
Right, you see, I don't know Italy very
die
well.
for.
I did one weekend in Rome and a couple of days in Milan. So
the architecture, Florence, and just Tuscany generally, and the wine scene and the hills and the architecture and the people and the coffee and the art. The art scene is just ridiculous.
Right, it's just kind of overloads on beautiful. And it's a beautiful overload on sensorial, right? Whether it's food or.
But that's what I think. That's why I like Bali as well. It's just the sensory overload with everything.
But, Bali, going up north, you must go up north. You have to head north. North is beautiful. Go up the Pupuan Road. It's just stunning with all the rice paddy fields and the little valleys. And, travel. You must travel out of this.
Oh, we have. We've
tourist enclave.
There are a few corners of Bali we haven't quite been to yet.
Right.
But we're making our way. We're making our way around. I mean, we've only been here probably 6 months of the year that we've actually lived here. So it's kind of, we're trying to give ourselves a little bit of leeway with that. But yeah, we're
Stay
working
away
on
from
it.
Waterfalls. Way too crowded.
The influencer scene is as frustrating as the content creator scene here, but
and dangerous. I mean, falling over backwards and killing yourself just to get the selfie at the waterhole or the blowhole of Nusa Dua or something.
Well, now there are companies that actually were created for influencers to get influencer shots for Instagram. So, it's just
so the influencer guide.
Yeah, guide. Yeah, so they'll pick people up at the airport and give them a week's tour of Bali, all the hotspots for their influencer photos. Like, kill me now.
But it's a funny, and unique and new kind of a job, be a segment of people, society.
Yeah, and you can't really condemn it, right? Because it's a job. It's the way a lot of people earn their money. It's just the way.
And it's basically a magazine page on their page, right?
Yeah, but the problem is it brings people into a country where they don't need to respect the culture. They should, but they don't. They just come in to
hell-bent on getting to that swing with the red dress.
Exactly.
Right?
It's just, and unfortunately, that's just exacerbating the whole.
So that's not the kind of travel photography I like. Although I love some influencers photography, especially Iceland. Come on, I mean,
it's been overdone now, though. But
but to go, I think. I mean, for me to go and see the Northern Lights and jump on one of those boats and see icebergs, that would be just for me. I mean, travel,
the orcas.
Travel for me would be just.
We had a trip to see the orcas in November 2020 that we were so excited about in Norway, and obviously COVID happened. We cancelled that, but yeah, we need to get there. Lovely, beautiful part of the world. People there are lovely. But yeah, what was I saying?
Travel photographers and influencers,
Travel photography. I mean, there are some just incredible photographers out there with travel photography. But and that is a saturated market in itself. But
nowadays you can AI it, right?
Oh, well, that's going to be my next question. Where does the Yak Magazine fit with AI? Is AI going to be kind of a big part of this? I mean, because you can generate images, generate copy, make anything up that you want to make up, edit, design. Have you even thought about that? Is that
possibly right? Copy, edit, possibly. I mean, I'm not sure whether their style of editing is really that good. I don't know. I mean, ChatGPT, it's kind of ChatGPT. I think it's super useful if you give it the right input. Right, you have to give it the right prompts. I've definitely recommended it to many of the PR people from hotels because they used to send me such interesting newsletters. I'm going to call it interesting. Because you just wouldn't know where to start to try and edit. You just have to you couldn't unravel what they're trying to say. So I definitely recommended them to use it. Absolutely. I said, before you send me a newsletter, use ChatGPT and then send me something I can work with, because otherwise it was getting very hard. And now of course everything's ChatGPT, it's like, how many more adverbs and adjectives can you shove in a sentence? It's just like,
it's like you can read a whole paragraph and you could, none of it
nestled makes sense. And whatever. It's everything keeps nestling everywhere. It's like, geez, how can it nestle?
Make it more literal.
It's flat. It's flat. You can't nestle on flat. It's a paddy field. It's flat, nestled in the paddy. I mean, it's like, but anyway, at least you can unpick that and rewrite it, and then you rewrite it to your style and add a few words. With photography and images, I imagine we wouldn't. I don't think so. No, God, absolutely not. I don't think so.
It's nice to hear.
No, not images. Writing possibly, because at the end of the day, writing, and it depends. Obviously, I think we'd do both. I think probably a lot of the advertising, sponsored writing, we would use AI.
And maybe the sponsors would provide AI images, because I think that's the next step, or probably the first sector of the photography industry to be.
I don't think they would. I mean, when you say what you're going to,
I mean,
how would you do an AI image of your own hotel bedroom? Surely it's just easier to take the shot. I mean, you're going to have to take the shot. I mean, how would you generate an AI image of your own bathroom?
Well, what you could do is, you could get an initial photo,
right?
And just keep that and then you go plug that in and say, put some flowers in the corner, make it different color,
right?
Improve some more dramatic lighting, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean,
that's photo editing, sweetie. That's not.
Yeah, but it costs, and it takes longer. Mid-Journey is like 5 minutes, and free, essentially. But I think more like even a lot of fashion photos. Fashion
photos, because you're going to save so much money. You can plot Milan in the back, and then Lake Como in the other one, and then and have them sitting down. And
or apparel images, like some photos of some sneakers, some shoes.
Me personally, absolutely not. I mean, I probably because my creativity isn't great, and then the fashion photographers is. So I wouldn't be using AI.
No, I mean more with sponsors. I think people who want to advertise, like let's say you want to advertise a pair of Nike trainers, like,
it would never come in the Yak. It wouldn't be in the Yak because Nike doesn't exist here.
Oh, okay.
So our sponsors are only ever connected to Bali.
Okay.
And the people that were in the magazine only ever connected to Bali.
But just an example as a sponsor.
Yeah.
There's that is, in terms of photography, not necessarily the Yak, but photography, that's definitely a sector I think will start to erode. Yeah.
I think that's that, especially they save money, and then they can change the tick to blue, red, put whatever they want on it, put Michael, whoever's shoe it is, and whatever. I think that's going to be interesting. So yes, I mean that's tough for anyone in that industry, right?
Yeah, but it's like anything. The industries a lot of industries will change. People would
except you've got to understand, when you do that, there's no backstory. There is no mise en scène. There is no stylist that can. So all you have is that one shot of flat. I mean, it has
no authenticity.
No, what I mean, but also you've got zero content to go with that photo.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be a mix of both. That you will have the product shots for the catalogs. I think where photographers will lose out is in catalog shots.
Yep.
But not in fashion shoots. I don't think so, because where's the backstory? Unless you create the backstory too, right?
And same with travel photography and things like that. It's that a lot of the images are based off the experience, the process, the story of that place, those people, whatever. So anyway,
I think with AI, I think the more it learns, and once it does hook into today's age of internet, it's just going to be hard to know what's AI and what's not. Right? It'd be nice if there was the global law. It has to have an AI watermark.
Yeah,
it's like such and such or whatever photo. It's got that watermark that you cannot remove.
Yeah,
and that would be nice. So
that's where I think cryptography comes into it with the blockchain and those kind of networks that can have questionable proof about authentication. Right. So that's a different conversation. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Sophie. If I was to ask you something like, if you could choose any one dinner guest to have at your table, alive or dead, who would it be?
Dr. Lawrence Blair.
Would it?
Oh, without a doubt.
All right, now I definitely want to meet him.
Without a doubt. I mean, just fascinating. I mean, I grew up in Ireland. We had Peter Sellers living next door, and everyone goes to these. Oh, it must be so interesting to live next to most of these people, actually, because they're actually very quiet at dinner, and they have to be in a character to be interesting. So a lot of people say, oh, I'd like to be with that person. But basically, if ever you want to sit next to somebody who's a dinner guest, who's an actor, they're not usually the people you think they are. They're usually just not. So I always tend to go for, A, people I know, and B, people.
It's a nice answer.
But people that lived and loved, as opposed to moved into a character, which most actors obviously do. You know?
Yep. What about kind of what brings you joy? What would be a perfect day for you?
Oh, having a plane ticket to go to Cuba.
So Cuba, you mentioned it
Yes,
before. Is that something like a bucket list destination?
I haven't been, and I speak Spanish, right? Because I grew up in Spain. So yes, it's definitely a bucket, but travel is a bucket list because I've been here for 20 years with deadlines.
Right.
Always deadlines, meetings, you know, every 3 months, and you know, up until COVID, and it's just like, you know, so this part of that, you know, putting the yak, you know, just to move it into dormancy for a second is also not only for me to move mum here, is for me to go and kind of shake off my deadlines and not have any, and you know, and literally not be worried about that, you know, because you know, you're always kind of thinking ahead. Oh, I always got gin and got to talk to him, and I don't know, and so your whole brain is always focused on the next yak, you know, so I kind of just want to go
just to liberate yourself a little
yeah,
bit.
absolutely, you know, and you know, I mean, it's such a strong brand, and let the world unfold, and let's, you know, and then let's see how it would, you know, come back, you know, once mum's here and all that, and I've, you know, cleared my head a bit, and then you know, kind of reconvene. So
Everything okay? Okay, hold that thought.
in international school because he was too young to go to Montessori. I liked the up until 6, the way of teaching of Montessori, Mary Montessori, who's Italian.
Yep.
So I like that. But after 6, you know, if you look into the history of anyone, you know, that really got anywhere, very few of them went to Montessori up until 18. So then I put him into the Canggu Community School, the CCS school. Bali's super difficult as a good educational point because a lot of the teachers just come here for their 2 years. They do 2 years here, 2 years Vietnam, 2 years this. So it kind of lacks the deep rootedness of this teacher's been here for 30 years. You know, that kind of, you know, that art, you know, that moves with you every year, that geography teacher or that history teacher that you might either love or hate, but you know, there is that consistency.
Yeah.
And the style of teaching. So, you know, different teachers have very different styles, and I think it'd be quite confusing as you grow up.
Very much so.
You know, Zen, I remember his handwriting now is shite. And that's totally because at Montessori they did joined up writing, and they forced him to unjoin it at Canggu Community School.
Why?
And I don't know. I mean, I didn't even realize this was going on, right? Because you don't kind of like look over everyone's shoulder, and he's 5, so he's not telling me, you know. So I didn't really know. And I think, you know, at that time, you know, we're talking about, you know, he was like, you know, so what would be now, it'd be 2008, he would have been 6 or 7. And yeah, I mean, it wasn't a great education, but I was here, my work was here. They were still finding their feet as far as the school, even though it's super expensive. Everything came home on a photocopy. I couldn't understand. How can you be as expensive as my boarding school? And I used to get books there, and I just get a little photocopy. So I used to get kind of like, I didn't really get on with the school.
Okay.
You know, I found, you know, I thought they could have done better, but it was a young school, you know. I mean, I suppose I come from an English background. I had a governess till the age of 9, went for 1 term to one boarding school, left, had 2 more governesses, and went back to Sherborne when I was 12. So I've had a great education. There was Sherborne School for Girls. I mean, it was started back in the 1800s. It was like solid. We had amazing equipment, biology labs, chemistry labs, dance halls, home economics, everything. And then, of course, you know, then you come to CCS, and it's literally, it's very much like prefab. So I think the education was a bit like that too. Hard, I think nowadays with this new school they've come out in Nuanu, I think that's really exciting. I loved the Green School, but my son said absolutely no way. He wouldn't want to go to, you know, way too many creepy crawlies. It's in the middle of the jungle, right? You know, so but right now he's studying business studies and mediation in a college in Melbourne. And I sent him to Melbourne, actually. He went to Mackinnon in Melbourne from the age of 14 and 3/4 to 18. Yeah.
And throughout his life, so for the last 20 years, you've had Yak has basically been your full-time gig. You've been, you know.
Yeah, he was, that was 2003, and he was born in 2001.
If you bring this back, then do you think you'll go back to working on it full time, or is there an option for you to bring someone else in? Who
Yeah,
can
no,
be
no.
the
I think I'd definitely bring someone else in, and I would like much more to suggest ideas, or suggest people. I think my role should be much more suggestion. I think that, definitely my mindset, I'm about to be 60 next year, right? So, to keep appealing to a readership, one needs to not be me anymore.
No. Hire an influencer.
Yeah. Oh, yes. We're the original.
You are the original influencer. There you go. That's the tagline for this episode.
The original influencer. Yeah. The first.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think as times change and as different tastes and habits and needs and eccentricities of other people come through from the younger generation, it needs to have a different focus. Plus, I wouldn't know anything about it, right? I mean,
Yeah, there's got to be a point where you.
Well, I'm just distanced from that.
Yeah, disconnected with the.
I'm just distant. I'm distant. I'm not on. I don't tweet X. I've never been on TikTok. I mean, God forbid.
Oh God.
What I find is really interesting because in China they're showing people lots of educational TikTok things and dumbing us down in the West. I think that's rather smart. So no, I mean, I think, it's time for me to kind of like go travel, go and see the world through my eyes and not through the photographer's eyes. Right?
Wonderful.
So, so I'd definitely like to consult, but I wouldn't be doing it full time.
Get yourself to Cuba.
No. I don't think, you need new people. I mean, you need new people. You need people that, I don't want to be the oldest person in the room when we get invited to the marketing. Yeah. Thanks to all the, publishing companies, and it's 15, 20-year-olds or 30-year-olds. And there's me, twice that age. It's like, no, I just think it's not,
What kind of advice would you give to that younger generation that want to get into the publishing industry and do something like this? Was there one or two biggest pieces of advice?
I think to anyone that wants anything in life, it's become a salesperson. Whether you want to be an artist or whatever, I mean, basically become a salesperson. Trust in the passion you've got, but become a salesperson.
How do you become better at sales?
I don't know.
Please tell me. I need to get better.
Experience.
Experience.
How do you become better at sales? I suppose number one, you've got to have a product that somebody wants. So you need to go and find the person that wants the product. Find the niche, find the gap. Have they got a gap? Yeah. Then you go see them. They'll need it, right?
Solve a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We
and you're promoting them. You're their window. I mean, I think if it's something like this, you've got to be the best window you can be, and then people will come. But if your window doesn't have the right lighting, it doesn't have it's not on the right street, it's not distributed properly, not presented properly, then less people want to be in your window. I mean, you look at how much do people pay for being in Harrods at Christmas, or Selfridges at Christmas? Millions. Just to be on that window. Why? Because it's in the right location, it's beautifully lit, it's a whole story. People will hang out, and it gives their brand je ne sais quoi, kind of snobability or something.
Well, and Harrods have built that brand into what it is, right?
Yeah.
So,
So, and I think that's what as a magazine, if you want to do a magazine or any kind of marketing for people, promotions for companies. I think with the Yak, the positive thing about the Yak is the size. I mean, it's so much more elegant size like that than to hit that photo on here, right? I mean, it's and the shine of it and all that. So
I'm like that with print, just generally prints and
vinyl
and
vinyl,
newspapers.
Like vinyl, right?
I mean, when did I stop reading newspapers? God, ages ago.
Yeah,
I don't see any newspapers anymore.
Yeah. But I grab one if I see it.
Yeah.
A Jakarta Post, or even if it's in Indonesian, I'll try and read it.
So it's always this balance, isn't it? You don't want to be outdated. You want to stay trend, but you also want to be true and authentic and real. It's a difficult balancing act, I guess.
I mean, for us in the Yak, these pages don't shine, right? So there's no reflection.
No
so you could sit next to your pool, get a suntan with your cocktail in hand, and just quickly go through the pages, and it's got a nice weight to it. Whereas this is you don't want to get it wet, and it's like, nah, it's dead.
Where are they distributed? Where do you mainly sell them to? Hotels
through
and
Perry
stuff?
Place, Gramedia and all that. And then limousines, executive lounges, posh places, penthouses. This because we went from being quarterly to biannual. So this copy's out until November. So we continuously distribute throughout November. Right now, we've really pushed our distribution into Jakarta, Jogja, Surabaya. We've always sent to Singapore, Batam. Now we're going to as well because there's more Indonesians coming down.
Right.
Whereas before, we used to have it like Hong Kong first class lounge, Cathay Pacific, Air France, Lufthansa, and all that. And we could never get on board because it was too heavy.
On board the planes?
Yeah, I always wanted it to go on board, but it used to be 800 now, 800 grams. They removed one olive from first class or something.
Did they?
Across an airline, and they took it, like lightened the plane by 400 kilos or something.
Made them a lot of money.
Yeah, just one olive out of the, whatever it was, and saved them petrol. Right?
And yet the other day I sat next to like a hugely morbidly obese man. He probably paid the same amount that I did, which just frustrated me. But that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
Here's a tradition we have on the show. We I know you're familiar with these conversation cards, but I'll ask you to pick one, and then I'll put you on the spot. If you just choose, don't look at it.
That's right.
Right, okay.
No, don't look at it. Okay.
Okay.
That doesn't let you cheat. It's shocking.
Oh, okay. If there was one singular idea that had the most profound impact on your life, what would it be?
Idea, so not product. Idea.
Well, I guess a product is an idea, right?
I'm not sure. What's the most singular idea? Sorry, could you read that again? Idea. See, I think it's more ephemeral than that. Let's have a look. If there was one singular idea that had the most profound impact on your life, what would it be? Oh, freedom. Being able to be free. I mean,
What does define freedom?
Leaving home. I can leave home.
That's freedom to you. Being able to move wherever you want to move to.
Yeah. I mean, that's the most singular, I think, for anyone, really. Mobility. Freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom. As an idea. I think as a product, it's got to be a pair of skis, right? I mean, I ski. I used to ski a lot. So that, to me, if it was an idea as a product, I mean, to have invented skis and ski boots and anything, skiing was just...
You must miss it.
I haven't done it in 20-something years.
Okay.
So
it'd be interesting when you do it.
In my brain, I do a lot. I dream. I do. So, yeah, I dream. I do. But yes and no. I think I do no exercise, so I'd be in real trouble.
Well, when you go to Cuba, you've got to go.
I'd go down the baby run and go, oh my God, I'm knackered. Need to go to the bar.
Yeah, his tires.
Right.
Well, when you go to Cuba, you have to go through the US, right? So just stop in the US, go like wintertime.
Right.
Yeah.
Go to New Zealand or Japan, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Japan. I mean, Japan's great, but it's you don't have the après ski that you have in the US or Europe. And
Spain. Spain. I mean, I was skiing in the south of Spain, so that was the best après ski ever. 5 p.m. till 5 a.m. in the morning.
Cool.
And then you just get up and go and teach again. You just be with it and on it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we're not as young as we used to be.
No. Indeed.
I'm going to finish with one that I picked.
I was going to say, what was one for you? What was one of those ideas that?
Well, it depends if it means your own idea or someone else's idea. If there was one single idea that had the most, the most profound impact, I would say, photography. I mean, it's not an idea, but it was an idea that I would like give it a go, and it's changed my life. And even this podcast, the idea to have this podcast, I'm absolutely loving it, and it's made, I think, even in the short time that we've been doing it, it's definitely made me a better person. Another idea to move to Bali, could say the same thing. It's made us better people, even in the short time that we've spent here. So, I mean, there's a lot. I mean,
city living versus village living.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a city.
Who gave you your first camera? Or did you buy it yourself?
My parents. I mean, you were talking Kodak disposable cameras, the old wind click, and then go and get them developed. That was my first kind of wow, this is kind of cool. But I didn't really take to it when I was that young. I bought my first camera, my first like proper digital camera in Tokyo. Bought a Canon. It was called a Kiss X7i. Actually, I think it might have been with you for you. Didn't know what I was buying. Just like, oh, I just want a digital camera. So yeah, I've always been proud of that. I mean, my parents gave me so many things, but in terms of photography, yeah, I bought my first proper camera.
So would you say you're self-taught? Autodidactic?
Yeah. I did one, photography wise, I did one workshop. I didn't do it. I participated in one workshop, which was the catalyst that made me, well, I was still a hobbyist really, but made me kind of an inquiry into the skills of photography towards, okay, I actually want to do this as a hobby, routinely learn more about it. But yeah, since then, just self-taught. Obviously,
because I mean, your portrait's incredible. Your lighting's amazing. I mean, and obviously you're doing portraits for people here in Bali, like families and kids and and things like that, as well as your cultural.
Yes, we have to be careful with that. Certainly, since the whole kind of crackdown on photographers here. So the studio stuff I can only direct. So we have I have someone, an Indonesian girl who's essentially the photographer. She comes in and does the studio shoots with me because I'm not legally allowed to do that. But the personal, the passionate.
Well, I mean, I think it's the stylist is the one that makes the shoot look fabulous. So
absolutely, and I can direct, so I can pose them and look after them and help with the photography. But she's the one that actually presses yeah. So.
Well, how lucky for her. She must be learning a lot. She
is. And she's great. Like she's absolutely brilliant. She learns a lot. Want to do some workshops as well, which again is a kind of tricky area. It's like how much can I do on those workshops? Can I teach or can I just direct? So there's all this kind of stuff we're figuring out.
Right. And exhibitions. Any exhibitions coming up?
It's been on my list for so long. And I don't know enough people in that world yet to kind of tap into and try and go and get exhibited, other than just kind of outreach, just cold calling. But I'd love.
I think some of your stuff looked great in the Four Seasons. They used to have a beautiful little gallery.
Oh, did they?
Four Seasons, yeah. They used to, and everyone used to invite everyone for the cocktail party. It used to be art, not photography. They used to do, but I'll definitely put you. I'd love to see your stuff in a gathering in a small gallery and. Yeah, something, just beautiful because you've got some gorgeous images.
Thank you. I've just started to release a new series that we did in Selaya, South Sulawesi, the Bajau people. And it wasn't 100% what I wanted because I wanted to get them, the real indigenous Bajau in Sulawesi, in their stilt houses, literally living on the sea, living in their boats. We couldn't quite make it work. Yeah, the sea gypsies. We couldn't quite make it work logistically. But what we found actually was almost better in Selaya. A beautiful, beautiful island ruined by a trash problem. But that's another conversation. But the photography we had there, the people were amazing. So I'm just at the moment I'm building, and I want to do this longer project on Indonesia. There's so much I want to go and do, and I don't feel like I'm ready for any type of. I'd love to have a book, in a few years' time. I'd love all of these images. Because behind all these images, I'm trying to piece together a certain type of cohesion that's going to tell this narrative, tell this story of basically Indonesia and all of the culture that lies within every little place, all of the history, all of the movement, all of the wars, all of the types of people that have moved across various parts of Indonesia.
The transmigration, thanks to Suharto.
Absolutely.
Right, he got people. He pushed people. He said, "Take your 2 kids, so you can't take more than 2. Your husband and wife, and move to Sulawesi, or move to different island because it's called transmigration."
Okay.
So his aim was to repopulate different places.
Got it. Yeah. Well, and I guess you can see that, right?
Move Christianity around a bit. Move the Hindus in. Move the Muslims down. Yeah. So transmigration was very interesting. I went to this incredible island, Belitung. Right, Belitung, it's quite famous. There's this Andrea, who's an amazing book writer and film called Laskar Pelangi, which is like the Rainbow Mafia.
Rainbow Mafia.
The Rainbow Mafia. It's just about a poor school and a rich school, and the kids and how they interact. It's a very interesting film. And you go there, right? So this island is like halfway to Singapore, like in the middle of nowhere. It's called Belitung. And it's called Belitung. It's an aluminium mining that Australia came and totally decimated. That's why their aluminium company is called Belitung.
Okay.
Belitung. Anyway, so you go there and suddenly you get there. So you're driving around in the middle of nowhere, and suddenly you come around the corner and you've got 2 Balinese gates, right? With PLN, sponsored by PLN. So you've got the PLN side, 2 Balinese gates, and that's the Balinese encampment, and it was just like, whoa, what's this? And they said, oh, this was part of the transmigration. So it was. I mean, Bali kind of, when it goes abroad, it's so obvious, right?
It's so distinct from any other.
The gates. It's just, oh, you exactly know.
Yeah,
it's Bali. Yeah. So we've got lots of. I mean, my gosh, Indonesia to travel is huge.
It's kind of overwhelming, and at the moment we can only do bits at a time, right? I'd love to just get a boat. Someone pay for the boat.
The Mentawais. You've got to do the Mentawais.
Already done.
Oh, you've done the Mentawais, right?
Where is she? There's a few spots around.
Right.
I'd like to go back, because when I went there 4 or 5 years ago, I feel like I'm a much better photographer now than I was. Learned a lot, so I'd love to go back, if possible, to the same family I visited, because they were fucking brilliant. But what a fascinating, and there are many types of, I don't know what you'd call them, like cohorts of cultures that are like that, right? That I don't even know yet. And so I'm super excited.
The Badui is one. The Badui outside Jakarta, I think it is.
Badui, I did that before the Mentawais, actually.
Right.
They're a little bit.
You didn't get into the bit inside, did you?
I did.
Oh, wow.
Oh no, yeah, because they have
inner and outer.
They had inner and outer. I was obviously in the outer, couldn't get into the inner, and I was like, I need to get into the inner. So there's another place I need to go back to. Quite touristy, whereas the Mentawais, not. I mean, to get there is 3 days travel, and 6 hours on a canoe and all that kind of stuff, with loads of photography equipment. Weighing 100 kilos.
You definitely have to talk to Dr. Lawrence Blair, because he did that basically in the 70s. They actually bought, I don't know, we're taking a V8 camera, I don't know,
wonderful.
Just incredible in the 70s.
Wonderful.
They had to wait for the trade winds in
Yeah.
Singapore. They had to wait 3 months or something
Amazing.
to wait for the trade, because nobody had engines.
No,
They were literally the trade winds. So it's incredible
Amazing.
history he's got. Yeah.
that's proper traveling. Proper traveling.
Pioneer stuff. Yeah.
Well,
Anyway,
Sophie,
what a pleasure.
what an absolute pleasure.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much. I am going to leave you with one question and put you on the spot again. But this is one I picked out earlier because I kind of like it. And with your, I guess, experience in Bali, especially, but with being a successful businesswoman, the question is, what do you promise to do to make our world a better place?
What did I promise to do? Hopefully it's something I'm doing consistently and now, throughout. Inspire and support people that are doing amazing things. Like Gary Benchcube, who's doing, Make a Change World, which is his river cleanup. You've got the Eco Mantra Boys. Anything of any group or any single person that's really doing something to improve, definitely, mainly on nature and the eco problem we've got. Do you know Joseph, the recycling little kid?
Yes.
Right. So this is what I do in the background, and I will always continue to do this because I think it's important. Because me personally, I don't think so, but I think to inspire and support, to really support, mentally support as well, and always look for opportunities and pass them over, and always connect people. There was this guy, I can't remember, and he was there was a casting call for kids to go and do a workshop with him in a documentary in Europe. And the casting call had finished. But anyway, I got onto Instagram and I saw it. So I got on and I had this conversation with him. And I said, no, he's Indonesian. You need this problem to be brought to Indonesia. So you need this Indonesian kid. Da, da, da. Anyway, so he got a call and he's part of the documentary. which is coming out in about 6 months.
Cool.
All stuff like, I mean, I think it's important that everyone, if there's an opportunity and you can match that opportunity with somebody who's doing something good, it's hugely important. For example, I was in doing a women's economic forum in Jakarta. This Italian lady came in and she said, we've got a grant and we need to get this grant promised by the 21st of September. And it's a grant. I'm looking for Indonesia. And I said, Bali, okay, Ikan Mantra, they've got the 14 things you're looking for. They want to do recycling and composting and all that. Bang, immediately put them together. So I think you've always, what I promise to do is always be on the lookout to who I meet, find out what they do, and if I can match that up to somebody who can benefit from that, or they can support that's the mission, the aim, and I think it should be, always look for that opportunity to who you can match and assist. That's hopefully what I do.
Well, you definitely do, and it's been educational as always.
Thank
talking
you.
to you, and very inspirational. Please keep doing what you do.
Thank you.
You're inspiring many people, just not in Bali, but I'm sure throughout Indonesia, and whoever else is watching this and following you. So thank you very much. It's been an absolute privilege.
Om Swastiath.